Welcome to BCS Embrace event called Passing the Torch. Before we invite our guests to the podium, I'd like to first introduce BCS Embrace. BCS Embrace is a special interest group within BCS with a focus on ethnicity, race, and diversity within the IT sector. Today's event, we've got 3 key speakers coming on board. To start us off with, we're going to have David, who's going to talk to us about building the management team and the importance of internal due diligence. We will now move over to Bethan, who will talk to us about life after retirement and how to be a freelance assessor for the BCS. Last but not least, we're going to have Vidya come to the podium to talk to us about management systems for business continuity. Then we'll hand over to you, the audience, where you get your chance to ask those questions which have been in your mind. So we'll go through the Q&A session, and we'll have, after the event, we'll have a networking activity outside. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to David Lewis to talk to us about building the management team and the importance of internal due diligence. David, come over.
Thank you. Right, I think we've got 3 very different takes on a theme today, so I hope that each one of them at least will grab your interest and make you enjoy this seminar. So I thought I should start off by saying that I'm looking at it from the point of view of succession planning in your business and looking at it as to how you might eventually look for an exit from your business, which is a very important thing. So I want to make that clear right from the start. That's where I'm coming from. I've been very fortunate myself to run a business called PMI Consult Limited throughout the last 35 years. And it's been a very interesting journey. As you can see, I'm probably somewhere near the end of that journey, but we're still very much active, and succession planning has been a very important part of what has been going on within my own business. So if you're entrepreneurial, if you are looking to be a master of your own life, it's really important that you start and make that plan, but more importantly, make a start. Being your own boss is a great thing to do. It really relieves the pressure of having that uninformed, ignorant director ahead of you who doesn't understand the complexity of what you're trying to do and is constantly demanding that you produce results in unreasonable timeframes. Now, when you run your own business, the only person you're responsible to is yourself, in as much as that if you fail, it's your failure, nobody else's failure. So you're very driven to succeed. So make a plan, but most importantly, make a start. And there are various times in your life when running and setting up your own business can be particularly opportune. In my own case, it was a point where I had reached a certain level of financial security, and we could see that the children had reached university age, and we could step away. And the secret about running a successful business is that you never stop learning. Education, we're talking here about BCS as an IT educator, is a critical part. So you're always up to date with your subject matter and your subject. But the one thing about starting your business is one thing, but always having one eye on your exit from that business is another key factor, an absolutely critical factor. Once you've established your business, one of the biggest problems people find is actually finding a buyer. And of course, the structure of that exit can vary. You will be probably looking at some employee incentive schemes whereby you may have already dissolved your shareholding by offering employee incentive programs. You may be looking at a management buyout because it may well be that the people who are already within your business are the best people to succeed and continue to manage that business successfully. Or you may be looking at external buyers, and finding external buyers, almost certainly you will find them within your industry sector. It's very unusual to find an exit strategy that involves going outside your network or your immediate experience. So if we're going to think about our exit strategy, one of the things we need to do internally is be constantly preparing for that sale and be thinking about how to make our business a lot less personal centric. One of the big problems with a lot of businesses is they are built around a single personality. And what we don't really want is to have that. We want to have our business being able to stand on its own 2 feet. So one of the things you want to do quite early on is to look at your strategic plan, and as part of that plan, have an exit strategy section within that, and keep on updating that every year. So as you update your strategic plan, so you update your exit strategy plan, and of course, probably, hopefully, increase your valuation every time. So I thought one of the things I have here is a document, which is a due diligence document that we used to utilize within my own business in looking at that evaluation. One of the things you need to do for any potential buyer is remove any uncertainty about the business. So define what it is you are going to sell. Define if it's the whole business or it's some part of the business. And make that very clear and understand the shareholding and the ownership of that particular section of the business that you may be trying to be disposing of. Look at your management structure and your personnel. Have available an up-to-date organization chart. Look at it and make sure it makes sense in terms of the roles that people are playing. And be clear about how, if you stepped away from that business, how it would continue to operate in your absence. Nearly all sales tend to involve an element of the vendor continuing to have a period of involvement to hand over and make sure there's continuity within a business. And that can be an issue, because if you're selling for health reasons or for some other personal reason, it may not be consistent with your being continually involved in the business. So look at all those employees and understand what employment contracts you have in place and make sure they're valid. And if you have consultants working within the business, make sure those consultancy contracts are also in order. Understand and be able to document what benefit plans you've put in place for employees. Do you offer healthcare, or are you involved in some child voucher scheme for child benefit? Do you have stakeholder pensions in place? In which case, what contracts are there and what benefits are being accrued? Do you need key man insurance on certain key directors within the business? Do you have it? If not, should you be buying it? Make sure that you have a document, which is a business strategy and a mission statement, that you can hand on and demonstrate to the potential buyer. It should cover your sales and marketing strategy, your recruitment and retention policies, any geographic spread or domain specialization. Look at your contracts and make sure you have copies of your contracts with your customers and any licenses and agreements that you may have signed. Think about whether you have key business associates and joint venture agreements in place. Where are your strong banking relationships? Will your banker back you throughout this sale process? Don't make them nervous. Keep them informed. The worst thing a bank feels is being blindsided by an event. So making sure that you have a good relationship with your bank and you're able to inform them of your intentions well in advance will make sure that there's not any sudden deterioration in your credit rating, which could be damaging for the business. Make sure you can document the key technology platforms that you use in your operational day-to-day activities, such as Salesforce or Office or simple things like that, where you have licensing costs and ongoing commitments, because people need to know what contracts you have in place. And if you have open legal issues, be sure to clear up and settle as many of those outstanding disputes as you can, because you want, again, any buyer wants certainty, and what they don't want is contingent liabilities somewhere on your balance sheet that they are unable to assess. But remembering, they will not have, no matter how good your due diligence internally and their external due diligence, they will not have a complete picture of the business that they're buying with all the best will in the world. Finally, make sure you have all your client contracts in place and you can demonstrate, and be careful to explain to any client at the earliest opportunity what is going on, whilst not disturbing the client relationship. That's a very fine balance, I have to say. You should be able to show a history of your business, showing turnover growth, opportunity generation, your ability to convert those opportunities into business, and any contracts you may have. And then finally, do some peer group analysis. Most importantly, try and select an appropriate peer group that is really representative of your sector, in my own case, IT consultancy, and do some peer group analysis so that you can actually show why your business is more attractive maybe than your competitors. And finally, when it comes to pricing, remember that your business is only worth what someone will pay for it. And you can have the biggest figure you like in your mind, but in the final analysis, there's some very basic valuations around turnover, PE ratios, a combination of which will actually end up with the resulting valuation. Think about how you would structure that exit deal. Would you accept some deferred consideration? If you do, make sure it's bank guaranteed, because I have examples myself of people who have sold and then fallen out with the acquirers and have ended up in legal disputes with the acquirers. Those things should not really be surprises. You should have thought ahead about it, and you should know what you want to do to exit. So if you're running an IT business, which is what we're really focused on today, you'll have a combination of both people and product probably, in which case, look at the valuation of each of those. Do you have intellectual property? Have you documented that? Have you got your patent rights in place? All these are key considerations. So before you think about passing on your business, think about why you want to retire. Think about what you'll be doing afterwards. Have you saved enough? Will you have enough to be able to retire? People say you need at least £500,000 to retire these days. And make sure that you understand what your work-life balance will be post-retirement. I know that our colleague will be talking about one of the opportunities. Bethan will be talking about one specific opportunity going forward. But make sure you have at least 3 hobbies in your locker, that you're prepared to volunteer. Then make sure you know where you'd like to volunteer. And as I said at the beginning, if you want to have a happy retirement, never stop learning and keep being involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, David. Sound guidance there. As a person on the other side of the buying of the buying and sale transaction, I second many of what he's mentioned, especially the one about there are 2 people buying. So in terms of the price, you may have an idea about 2 people both have to agree the value and the price of it. So real good sound advice there. Thank you for that, David. Without further ado, we're gonna go over to Bethan, who would be talking to us about life after retirement and potential opportunities, as David mentioned, to keep yourself active and progressing. So Bethan, please share with us.
Hi there, thank you. That was really interesting listening to David talking about that. I actually sold a successful hospitality business about 4 years ago, and I had a mentor who was a retired businessman who'd sold a manufacturing business. And when I asked him, when is the best time to sell, or how do you know when is the best time to sell your business? And he said to me, when somebody offers you the money, which was really interesting. And I had lots of people approach me, but only one party actually made an offer, and then I decided to sell. So yes, quite an interesting time. Well, I wasn't ready to retire then, so I now work at BCS as a marketing manager, and my role is really as a campaign strategist. So one of the campaigns that I've been working on is to recruit associate assessors, and I actually became an associate assessor myself in addition to my day job. So I'm sure people are aware that BCS do the endpoint assessments of digital apprenticeships, and they are the largest endpoint assessment organisation in the digital sphere in the UK. And in the last 5 years, they have undertaken over 20,000 endpoint assessments of apprenticeships. So internally, there is a team that coordinate those assessments and then undertake some of them. But the scale of the job now is we require quite a large network of freelance assessors. So we are continually recruiting for people across quite a wide range of specialisms. So, you know, DevOps, software, AI, cyber, networking. I used to do, well, I still do digital marketing assessments. So there's quite a wide range, and people often have quite a range of skills as well that they can assess different subject areas. So the roles are freelance, and you can do as much or as little as you like. So we have a lot of people who've retired from the IT industry. Some people do it alongside a full-time or part-time job. Some people do it as their main source of income. They don't want to go back into full-time work. They want something that perhaps suits a change in lifestyle and gives them more flexibility, because the roles are 100% remote. All the assessments are done Monday to Friday during working hours. There's prep work and admin work that goes around that, and that can be done at any time. So it's quite a flexible role, really. You can be employed as a contractor, freelance contractor, or you can do it through a limited company. We do have quite robust contracts in place. If you decide to go down one route as a limited company and actually then think, no, I'd rather do it as a freelance self-employed person, that can change. There is a little bit of, you have to get a new contract. So there will be a little bit of a gap between changing those setups, but which is why we always recommend, if you decide to go down one route, perhaps stick to that, although it can change if your circumstances change. So at the moment, there's quite a lot of subject areas that we cover, and new ones are coming on board all the time. Recent ones that we've recently started to assess are content creators, digital product managers, and there's a new interesting one coming on about forensics, digital forensics. And we're working quite closely with some police forces to start assessing their apprenticeships in that area. So we have some case studies of people that are doing these roles. We have a little video that talks about what's involved. So I can share those links afterwards, and you can perhaps have a look, get a bit more information. We also, an important thing to mention is that BCS, we do pay leading rates of pay for these particular roles, because we have such a high demand for these people to come on board. They are rewarded quite well. The payments do vary in the different subject areas, but to give you an example, in digital marketing, an endpoint assessment, they pay £500 per assessment. So it might involve going through some pre-prepared project work, creating some questions, doing an online interview with the apprentice that lasts about an hour. In other areas, you might have to monitor a task that they do. So the actual work involved does vary depending on the specialism, but it's working quite closely with the apprentice and just assessing their skills, their behaviours, their knowledge, giving specific examples of their skills. So you don't need any experience as an assessor, but you do need at least 5 years experience in your area of specialism. So the process is, if you are interested and you know which areas you would like to be involved in, it's then you put in an application. So it's a covering letter explaining why you want to do it and submitting your CV, demonstrating clearly the experience you have relevant to that area of specialism. You'll then get invited to a 2-day online workshop, really. So the team that manage this process will talk about exactly what the role involves, some of the admin tasks, the different types of assessments that we do. You'll have a chance to interact in and ask any questions. If after that 2-day course you decide that you do want to proceed, then you have to undertake a DBS check, which BCS pay for. That can take 3, 4, 5 weeks to come through, depending on the time of year. If that's all satisfactory, you then get assigned a mentor, somebody who's already assessing the apprenticeships in that particular area. And you will shadow them while they're undertaking the assessment. So you can see what's involved, the type of questions that are asked. You will, all the paperwork will be shared with you, so you can see how the forms need to be filled in, what types of things you should be asking and assessing. And then you work quite closely with that mentor and shadow them on 3 different assessments, and you'll be asked for your input afterwards. So the first one you might just watch. The second one, you might prepare some work, share it with the mentor, and then stay in the background while the assessment actually takes place. And then the third one, you would actually prepare, watch in the background, but then complete all the paperwork to then talk through with your mentor as well. And when they feel you're ready to go ahead and do your own, you will get assigned an apprentice, and then the mentor will then shadow you for 2 or 3, just to see how you're performing, to see if there's any issues that they can help deal with for you. And then once you're ready, you're then on your own to do those. But at any time, you can ask your mentor to shadow you, or you can, again, step back and say, look, I'm not quite ready. I'd rather do a few more shadowing to see how it's done before I feel comfortable to do them on my own. So it's a very supportive relationship, and the mentor is there to answer any questions you have, and you can put in a call to them at any time, and just get some feedback. So and that relationship stays throughout if you're taken on board then as an assessor. And in terms of working hours, you can, every month, you put in a little spreadsheet of when you're available. So we do recommend that you do perhaps 1 a week if you can. If you can do more, that's great. You let them know your availability, and they will assign you apprentices. If you're going to be away or you're not available for a few weeks, that's absolutely fine. Just let them know. So you can do as little or as much as you like, really. And we do find that we have a lot of assessors who actually want to give back to young people coming into the industry, or people changing careers, and they want to see how the industry is developing and new skills that they're developing. So in terms of CPD as well, it's a really valuable tool to get a broad insight in perhaps some other areas or some other industries, still within the digital industry, but perhaps in different fields. So it's quite an interesting role, and we do find that a lot of people, feel a lot of benefit. They feel like they're helping other people, they're learning themselves. So it's quite a nice environment to be in, actually. So the roles are very flexible, using your skills and your expertise. And what I would do is I will share the links to our landing page. You can get more information. And then if you are interested, I would suggest do the 2-day online workshop. The next one is 24th, 25th of October, and there is one then at the end of November as well. So they're held monthly. And just find out a bit more about it. But they're really interesting and flexible roles that would suit people retiring or actually wanting to do a bit more in their working life now as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. That was so informative, Bethan. We appreciate that. Yes, please, by all means, reach out to us. We will be sharing the link later on in the group chat, and also for those that may want to immediately get on board with this, please send an email to groups, that's groups @bcs.uk. Highlight this is from BCS Embrace, so that we know how you've connected with them, and we would support you on that journey towards being an accredited person on behalf of the BCS. So thank you very much, Bethan. Really appreciate that. And now for our keynote speaker, who will be talking to us about management systems for business continuity. Maybe talk to us about the journey towards the retirement and potentially exiting from a business owner perspective. Right now, we're going to have Vidya, who's going to talk to us about the management systems and how to keep the ship running should you decide to move on. Without further ado, I'd like to invite our keynote speaker, Vidya. Thank you.
Need the is it this one? No. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me as a keynote speaker on management systems. All the things that David mentioned, as I was listening, I said to myself, management system is the perfect perfect place for all those good things that David mentioned. Capture everything in the management system and make it easier when it comes to the exit strategy.
Absolutely true.
So we have a standard called Business Continuity Management System. Now, when I was asked to do this presentation, I thought to myself, retirement. Well, I can't really see myself retiring. So I said, I'm going to be working. So what can we do in terms of people who do want to retire and people who are key people in the business who want to retire? So I said, management system, business continuity management system will be ideal. But I wanted to test it with the audience tonight. So it's going to be live test here. So here we go. So we're asking the question, can the international standard ISO 22301 security and resilience business continuity management systems be used for succession planning? So how do we define succession planning? It's the process of ensuring that all critical positions in the organization are always staffed by preparing employees to take on those roles in case those roles become vacant. It therefore involves identifying necessary skills for critical positions and training employees in those skills. So I thought about a case study that a real world experience about 4 years ago, a small business, and there were only about 14 people in the business. It's been going as a going concern for decades, and there was no one there. We had implemented a management system for them based on quality ISO 9001 and 14001 environmental obligations management system. But over the years, people came and went, but there was no one there other than myself managing it along with other clients. But there came a time where I said to top management, look, what if I win the lottery and disappear? Or if I wanted to move on to other projects which are going to take more of my time. So we scouted for talent within the business. There were talented people, however, they have to want to do the role of managing the system. So we found someone called Jackie. It's not her real name, by the way. So 4 key tasks we needed to train them up on, which was maintain the certified quality and environmental management system, conduct regular internal audits, chair regular management review meetings, and finally maintain the certification by assisting external auditors during annual surveillance audits. So can this management system suffice for retirement of key people in the business with succession planning in mind? And obviously the first question was for the new people that wanted to take on the role, they were new to the systems. So what is a management system? So it's a set of interrelated or interacting elements of an organization to establish policies and objectives, and then set up processes to achieve those objectives. In this case study, the objective was to hand over, pass the torch to someone else so that we can move on, the new person can take on as succession planning. So the standard business continuity management system actually specifies the requirements for a business continuity management system that identifies the threats. What are the potential threats to the business? And build the capacity to deal with unforeseen events. In our case, it's a foreseen event. It's not an unforeseen. We want to hand over to someone else. And there was no potential threat. We were still there. So there was no potential. So the organization, the BCMS gives an effective response and a quicker recovery, thereby reducing any impact on people, products, and the organization's bottom line. Now, if we had just walked away from the business, it could impact on the people in the business. It could impact the products because they were based on the ISO 9001 and 14001 management system. So we had to make sure that knowledge was passed on to the other person before we moved on. So the benefits, what are the key benefits? One of the key ones is the confidence that your plans are robust and ensures you're resilient and well placed to deal with change. In this case, we're moving away. Someone else is going to take over, we're passing the torch. That's the change. And increased stakeholder confidence and trust. So their customers, the client's customers, know that they have a ISO 9001 and 14001 certification, and they don't want to see that lost. The client doesn't want to see it lost. The client's customers don't want to see it lost. Otherwise, they'll lose confidence on the client. So this business enables trust with the stakeholders. What does it actually cover, the BCMS? It's very generic and intended to be applicable to all organizations, no matter the size or sector. It includes government organizations and not-for-profits. And what does it cover? It's the three English words: extent of application of these requirements. That's very critical. Regardless of the size or sector of the organization, you can pick and choose the key elements from the standard and make it applicable to your business, the way your business travels. So in that way, it's very flexible. And it enables you, in our case study, it enabled us to prepare for this change of passing the torch. So the importance is firstly, understanding the organization's needs, and then establishing what are the policies and objectives. In the case study, the policy was quite straightforward, that we want to hand over to someone else so we can move on. Someone else can run the system. And the ensuring organization will survive disruptions. In this case, it's planned disruption. We're going to move away, someone else is going to take charge. And you can have continual improvement based on qualitative and quantitative measures. Qualitative, the internal audits being done by the new person. Is it of sufficient quality? Does it make sense to the business? And quantitative, for example, is the internal audit schedule. Is it quarterly? Is it being done quarterly? So answering the question, can we use the business continuity management system for succession planning? Can we use it or not? Now, this picture clearly says what the steps are. Now let's test it. In our case study, did we do a BIA, which is business impact analysis and risk assessment? Yes, we did, because we said, look, we need to move on. We need to train someone else to carry on with the system. So we did an assessment. And if you just moved on without handing over, then this is going to impact the business. So we did the risk assessment. And out of that, the output was strategy. What is the strategy? Well, we need to find someone who will take on the system and run with it, maintain it, do the audits, do the management review meetings, assist the external auditors. That was the strategy. So planning, we found someone who was not only capable, but also keen. They wanted to learn. That's very important. They were equally passionate about the management systems once they had that learning. So that's important. So we did the planning, and it was over a 2-month period, and it was exercised. We handed the system over to them and watched. I think Bethan talked about shadowing. We were shadowing the person running the system to see if they're following their learning. We exercised it. And improvement. To this day, 4 years later, they're still maintaining the certification, ISO 9001 and 14001. So we followed all these steps without actually thinking about this particular standard, business continuity management. So the answer is, yes, we can use this system because we followed all the steps. There we go. I passed the torch 4 years ago to Jackie, who learned the system, and the light is still burning brightly. Good governance in action. Bravo, Vidya, Jackie, and the team. Successful succession. Would you all agree that it's a resounding yes, we can from all of us? We can use this methodology and the system. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vidya, for talking us and walking us through the process towards business continuity and how it helps the journey. Thank you very much to all our speakers today who have taken time out to talk to us based on their knowledge, their experience. Thank you.